every time that your brain sees like something and you think about it, it actually decides two different times if it's a person or an object. So it decides once consciously, and then there's also this unconscious sorting mechanism that makes a similar kind of decision. And most of the time, they both make the same decision. So it's you look at a couch, your conscious mind says that's an object, and your unconscious mind says that's an object, and everything's good. But there are times when your conscious mind says that's an object, and your unconscious mind disagrees, because the sorting mechanism that your unconscious mind uses is very simple. It never, when we were evolving this mechanism, there weren't like androids, there weren't computers that talked to you. There, anything that looked like a person was a person, and things that didn't look like a person weren't people. It was really easy for your unconscious mind to come up with these very simple kind of rules. The first easiest to understand rule, and the one that is actually in marketing the least common, although people are using it more and more now as they're catching on, is anthropomorphism. So you make the product itself look like a person, talk like a person, act like a person in some way. Siri and Alexa are great examples of this. You have this conversation with an object. Outside of Apple, there's this company called Replika, spelled with a K, that makes these avatars called replicants that you sort of go online and you form this relationship and you get this animated, like it looks like a person, but it's an animated drawing and it talks to you. You have a whole conversation with it. And people tend to fall madly in love with these avatars, even though they're obviously not really people. But their unconscious mind doesn't know that. Their unconscious mind is treating this thing like a person because it looks like a person, is talking like a person. Doing that is one of the most obvious ways to make this happen. However, it's not the most common way. Most brands that people love don't look like people or talk like people. So the next mechanism, which is much more common, is to get the consumers in their mind to make a very strong association between the brand or product and some actual human being. So they get bound up together in the person's mind. And that connection is so strong that when they think about the product, their brain automatically starts thinking about the person a little bit. And then it starts treating the product as if it was a person. So for Nike, there's this fabulous movie about the origin story behind the Air Jordan shoe. So before Nike created the Air Jordan shoe, they were a medium-sized company, but not a big player in the athletic apparel industry. And that shoe was so successful, it really transformed the whole company. It was such a huge success. It's about how they got eventually Michael Jordan to agree to be part of the project and endorse the shoe. And there's a line that they use in that movie, I think 3 different times. They want to make sure you really hear this, so you say this over again. And they say, a shoe is just a shoe until somebody steps into it. So that's completely perfect. It's like the shoe is just an object. People are just going to think about it like an object. But if you get it connected strongly in their mind to Michael Jordan, then they start thinking about it like it's a person. And their love for that shoe, and people lined up to get Air Jordans the way they lined up to get iPhones. Their love for that shoe really is only made possible because their unconscious mind is now treating it like a person and creating the kind of emotional bonds with the shoe that you would normally create with a person. So Nike does that very well with their spokespeople. Apple, when Steve Jobs was still alive, did that with him. And then Apple also very much, a way that a lot of companies try to do that works well, is you're not necessarily connecting the brand to a particular individual like Michael Jordan, but you're connecting it to a type of person. So Apple has this whole thing where people would talk about, are you, quote, an Apple person? So there's this kind of identity that it goes with. And that is another way of getting people to see it as connected to people and think about it in human terms. And that also brings us to the third way that you do this, which is also quite common. And that is you get the consumer to see the brand or product as part of their own identity, part of themselves. And since they are, of course, a person, if it becomes part of themselves, their brain starts thinking about it in human terms. And that is really at the core of love. It's at the core of love. When you love another person, if you fall in love with someone you're dating, what your brain is going to do is your brain's going to start opening up your sense of identity, and they become part of your identity. When you have children, you love your kids, but they're also very much a part of your identity. Any parent will tell you that. If they do something good, you feel proud of them because you associate they're like so much a part of who you are. So that's inherent to any situation where you want people to love your brand. You have to get the third one. The other two, the anthropomorphism and connecting it to some other person out there who isn't the consumer themselves, those are a little more optional, although they can really help.